Hey everyone, today we're going to dive a little bit more into vibe coding, something for the Rise block, the custom Rise block, and talk to you about two different modes that you're in when you're vibe coding. Whether you're working with like something like Lovable or Cursor or just ChatGPT or Claude or anything like that, the same mode goes into play when you're creating something custom. And at the time of this recording, the DevLearn conference is actually just a week away, and I'm going to be presenting on vibe coding. And vibe coding, in part of my presentation, I talk a lot about different types of ways of vibe coding and kind of the start of vibe coding as well, and what it is as well. But there's one part that I really wanted to talk about in this video. So, and that is really two modes of thinking, two different things that kind of mindsets when you're working on some type of tool, whether you're working inside of Lovable or you're working inside of Cursor or ChatGPT, you're either in one mode of implementing, so you're implementing new features, new structure, new content, creating something from scratch as well. And that is thinking through of how this is going to work. This is really where you're bringing something to life, where something that doesn't exist, you could create a wireframe or something to help the AI agent be able to create it from scratch as well. And you can upload that to Lovable, you can upload that to Cursor, you can put that inside of ChatGPT as well. And that is the modes of like creating something from scratch. But there is a second mode, and this is something that I think is often overlooked, and that is debugging. The debugging mode is where you, as the product manager or the person who's creating the software, who's over the software, it needs to be an expert in that tool. You need to be able to go in and test the tool. So this is testing, fixing, fine-tuning, because anything that the AI agent gives you is not going to be 100% perfect. And so if you come across that before your learner does, it's going to save you a whole lot of time. But it's also something I think you need to test in the different environments to make sure that it's accessible, meaning that it's accessible on every device. It's accessible on every browser as well. It's also screen reader accessible, different things like that where you go into those and test that and debug it. And when you're implementing new features, sometimes the feature isn't exactly how you wanted it to be. So that's where you go into debugging mode and give the AI agent instructions on how to fix that and say, oh, no, this actually needs to work as a modal, meaning that it needs to pop up some information, or this needs to actually have an accordion where it expands out different things. That's where understanding the terminology could actually help and save you a lot more. You don't have to. I don't want to say that that is a requirement, because you can use natural language saying, this looks too squished, this looks too close together, instead of saying, hey, the margin and padding are actually too far. It can help, I think, and save you a whole lot of time if you do know the terminology, but that's the kind of debugging, that's the kind of troubleshooting mode that you need to be in. So what I'm going to do is jump in and I'm going to create inside of Rise here. I'm just going to go find one of my different pages, and I'm going to create a custom block. So under the block library, we're going to go ahead and just go to not custom block, but essentially, but a code block, and then we're going to add code. There's two different ways. If you want to check out my previous video here, you can upload several different files together that you create inside of Cursor or Visual Studio Code or something like that, and you can upload it as an entire package. Or if you keep everything inside of one HTML file, you can just copy and paste in the HTML file. When you're working with ChatGPT, normally, unless you give it specific instructions, it will keep everything inside of that HTML file. It's not the cleanest code because it has the CSS, it has the HTML, it has the JavaScript, which are the three essential building blocks of any website. It has all of those included inside of one file. So it depends on how you want to manage that custom block. We're going to stick with this example just as a regular kind of HTML page here. So I'm going to click on Add Code here, and this is where I can go in and add my code. So here's my HTML file. I can type in whatever HTML that I want here. It would be nice, and I think it would be a future enhancement to actually have an AI agent here instead of going into Lovable or ChatGPT to actually talk with the code block and say, hey, I want to create a custom layout for this kind of thing. But for now, this doesn't have that. So we're going to go ahead and go into ChatGPT. So in ChatGPT, let's go ahead and expand that here. I am I'm going to set the stage. So right now I'm in the implementing stage. I'm going to create a new feature, a new game. I don't have to give it specific instructions. If you want to create what's called a product requirement document, you could create that document where it has everything detailed out. You talk about the features, you talk about the purpose, you talk about everything like that. That's great if you're really going to implement something for real, but if you just want to learn how this works, I think you can just use natural language, but at least set up some things here. I am going to create a single HTML file that has a game inside of it, a learning game inside of it. It is going to be a Jeopardy style game. So I want it to be a common game that you can see throughout the learning industry, which is a Jeopardy style game where it has the different blocks. You click on it, there's a question as well. Now you could one by one just iterate on that, and that's part of that debugging, or sorry, the implementing mode, is you are iterating. So you're going in and you're working on a feature and you're saying, okay, now do this, now do that. Because one thing that I find with AI agents is if you give it too much instructions, it's going to ignore some of them. It's going to, just like you, if you were talking with a regular developer, they're going to miss some things there. And so it is, in my opinion, I've created now several, like 15 plus different apps here. When you're working with AI agents, is to take it one feature at a time. And when you take it, you can create the basic structure and everything, but then start focusing in on, okay, let's create this feature, let's create that feature, let's now add on AI generation, and let's now add on the filtering, things like that, is to take it one feature at a time. So we're going to create a Jeopardy style game with, it will have 3 rows and 3 columns, just to keep it simple. When you click on each block, will have a number like Jeopardy. Now, when I say Jeopardy style, don't need to give it specific instructions here on, because it can kind of pick up what Jeopardy style means as well. So Jeopardy, when you click on a number like Jeopardy, let's actually not even do that part. So each block, when you click on each block, it will show a question, and then like a multiple choice question. And if you get it right, it shows correct feedback. And if you get it wrong, it will show incorrect feedback. I'm going to keep it simple right now because we've already given it a lot of instructions of the type of game that it wants, that we want. But this is where I start to iterate a little bit. So I want to see what the initial thing is. And it's not going to be 100% perfect, but I'm going to go in and start to iterate a little bit as I start to implement this new feature. So let's see what it comes back with here. So you can see that it's starting to generate a lot of the code for me. So I can see a lot of CSS as well. So let's go ahead and just wait for this to generate. Now you can see the CSS is done, and now it's starting to generate the HTML. If you're not familiar with this at all, really any web page has 3 building blocks. It has the structure, the layout, which is the HTML. It has the style, which is the CSS and how it's styled. And then it also has the JavaScript of how it behaves. And that JavaScript can be developed in different ways, like React or Angular, or different things like that. But that's really where the core building blocks of a web page is CSS, HTML, and JavaScript. So it will generate all of those inside of one file. So you can see here, now it's starting to generate the JavaScript. So it has my questions inside of a JSON file as well. And I can always go back in and either tell ChatGPT to update those questions, or I can actually go into the code myself and update those myself. This is where having multiple files could actually come in handy, because most of the time for a good structured website, you'll have your CSS in one file, you'll have your HTML in a different file, and you'll have your JavaScript in another file as well, or several files to kind of keep them as different components so they're not just all one file. In this case, I didn't know it was going to generate that much code. I probably would have told it to generate several different files. But we have one file here that we're going to work with for now. All right, so here we go. It is a big file. It will always give you some instructions at the end. But if you scroll back up to the top here and you click on expand here, what it will do is it will give you a live kind of bigger preview of that. So you can go in and see exactly what the code looks like. But with ChatGPT, you can also click on preview. This will allow you to see exactly how the game is going to react. And you can start to play the game and iterate on the game as well, make sure that everything is working before you copy the code into Rise. This is where I would come in and start to play now. So if I click on this, You can see here's my questions. If I don't like the blue color, this is where I start to iterate. This is where I say, okay, inside of the questions, let's change the header, and the header being the question header right here. Let's change that to this. Let's change it to this. A lot of the times I will actually take screenshots and I will post those screenshots inside of the chat, and I will do something like this where I take a screenshot and come in here, take that screenshot, and with a Mac, you can just grab the screenshot, drag it right inside of there. Let's change the question header to be a brighter color that makes it stand out more, but still matches. So I could do that, go ahead and just hit enter. And now it's gonna go back in and give me a different iteration. Now I could come in and hit stop here, but I could also wait for this to update and just keep this preview. I'm gonna keep this up right now and just see if this updates automatically or if I have to hit stop up on the top. What I would consider iteration is it's not necessarily a bug. It's something that you want to continue to enhance or you want to modify a little bit. Debugging is more of like, I'm testing this out and making sure that it works. If it's not working, that is a bug. That's something that is wrong with the code that I can go ahead and just, make sure or find what the code is. If you get like an error or anything like that, then you can copy in that error, paste it into ChatGPT and say, hey, when I'm running this code, I can get an error. If you don't know what the error is, a lot of the times in the browser, you can right click and go into the console. In ChatGPT, you can't really do that. So right here, you can see the question header is now brighter, gradient blue. It didn't need to regenerate everything. But it didn't also update my preview, so I'll have to go ahead and hit stop. Let's close this out completely here, because it may still be trying to preview my last one. I like, when I'm iterating a lot of the times, I'll use cursor or I'll use lovable, but it still may be previewing my last code iteration and not the most updated iteration here. So now I need to come in and preview the latest iteration here. So this still isn't working. So I'm gonna go ahead and take a screenshot. So now I'm going into debugging mode. I do not see anything. It is just blank. So I'm giving it some type of error. And if you need to, you can always go back into previous versions. If you wanted to go to previous version, if you wanted to preview what the previous version was and go back to the current version, you can do that with the tools up here. You can also share it. It'll give you a link that you can share out. You can come over here and on the project, you can open up the console. This is where it will give you like an error if it's running or if it's not running. This is basically something for you to be able to go in and preview that. And then also once it's done generating, it will give you the opportunity to rename this as well. So it's not Jeopardy-style, you can name it to whatever you want there. Okay, so it was a problem. It wasn't that it just didn't refresh. And so you can see here that something was happening with the console, and I just needed to tell ChatGPT that it wasn't working. So now if I click on this, you can see that the border is much brighter. So you can iterate on this and you can have ChatGPT give some instructions and go back and forth. It is doable here. You can go in and you can implement, you can go ahead and come back to this chat and add new features. You can say, hey, change this to this. You can take a screenshot and say, I want this to be this question and this question needs to be correct. But that's where I go in and I start to test this, and I can come in and say, I want custom radio buttons where they're a little bit bigger. So I'm gonna hit submit, and you can see that it's marked it as incorrect. Or even the fact that it gave me a wrong answer, but I didn't get much of a chance to look at it, it just kind of closed the window. Those are things that you won't know about until you actually start to test. That's when you go into the debugging mode. So that's when you go in and you start to iterate and you start to, okay, something isn't working or something's not right. When something's not working, that's when you go into the debugging, basically. So here it is, and I can just go ahead and copy this code. So I'm gonna copy right here, the code, and I'm gonna come into Rise and the Rise block, and I'm just gonna go ahead and paste it right there. So you can see here, it is my questions, fully interactive, and I can see that's there. I could actually come in here and modify a couple of things about this. You can see here, full width, it's gonna take up the width. Auto resize, it's going to resize there, or I can go ahead and define a size there. Now, the way that this was developed, you can see that it was developed with tiles and the height is very tall. So I'd probably have to go into ChatGPT and say, hey, I don't want that to be as tall. I want it to be a little bit smaller or even more responsive. Those are things that you can iterate on as well. Let's go ahead and do this for now. If you come in here, there is also, if you wanted to set a completion to activate, enable the toggle, then add the code snippet, which you can see how it works there. I'm going to talk about that in a previous video, so make sure that you get subscribed so you get notified of that toggle and how you can actually prevent the user from moving on until they've completed this game as well. All right, that is how you add a code snippet and those two different modes, and that's mostly what I wanted to talk about today. Those two different modes of implementing new features and fine-tuning the features, and then debugging. When you come across something and you go into debugging mode, go into the console, make sure you check any errors that are happening, and then test everything out. And that is really those two modes when you're vibe coding. Over the next couple weeks and months and so forth, I'm going to go through a lot more terms. I'm going to go through a lot more different frameworks that you can use with vibe coding. I at least wanted to talk about those two different modes first. If you like this video, head on over to my YouTube channel, click the like button, as well as subscribe to my channel, and hit the bell notification so you get notified of all future videos as they come out. That really helps my channel, allows me to continue to grow, allows me to reach more learning developers, and my goal of this channel is to really help them become, or to stretch beyond what's in the box inside of these authoring tools and really stretch and create some custom solutions as well. If you want to head on over to my website, you can go to learningdojo.ninja. You can check out all of my current apps that I have available. I have various different apps to help you with your learning development. I also have several full courses covering everything from A to Z in Articulate Storyline 360, JavaScript and Storyline, XAPI Fundamentals, Articulate Rise, Custom Scorm, as well as all my previous blog posts. You can check that out, join the community as well so you get notified of all the blogs there. And then also any templates that you want to download, I have free templates you can download there. That's all I have for today. So thanks everyone, and I'll see you next time.